Incredible 8-year-old boy stuns court as mom's lawyer. What happens next will touch your heart. In a world where the underdog often battles against a daunting system, one boy stands tall. Jeremy, an 8-year-old with tousled hair and defiant spirit, steps into the courtroom, ready to fight for his family. The crowd buzzes, whispers thick with disbelief. How could a child be here defending his mom? But Jeremy isn't just any boy. He is a beacon of hope. As his little hand clasped tightly with his mother's, a determined flicker ignited in his eyes, promising a fight that would resonate far beyond those pale courtroom walls. Their home stood on the brink of eviction, and as his mother shared tales of resilience over battered dinners, Jeremy absorbed every word. With a voice that echoed profound truths, he felt the weight of her struggles and the burden of their modest life. She'd shown him the beauty of perseverance, and now he stood ready to repay that love. Jeremy's heart raced, a mix of fear and fire coursing through him as he prepared to speak. Around him, tension crackled like electricity. This was just their fight. It was a fight for every family who felt overlooked, unheard, and trampled by a relentless monetary tide. As they entered, the judge's stern gaze felt like a wall looming above, ready to crumble their dreams of security. Jeremy clutched his notes, his small fingers trembling, but there was a flame in his chest. When it was time, he cleared his throat and stepped forward. The murmur of the audience faded into silence. "My mom works hard every day. We deserve a home," he began, his voice gaining strength with each passing word. He spoke of family values, community ties, and the beauty of togetherness. The room seemed to lean in, captivated by a child who spoke with wisdom far beyond his years. Yet the moment hung like a pendulum, momentarily pitiful hope blossoming before the landlord thundered in with his harsh ultimatum. It felt like the floor pulled away from under them. Sign or be evicted. Just as despair threatened to drown them, a glimmer sparked as neighbors began to murmur their support. Friends stepped in, sharing their own stories of hardship, rallying around Jeremy and his mother like a warm blanket on a cold night. Hope surged, a community united against the weight of their plight. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jeremy turned to his mother, encouraged by her brave smile. The two of them caught in a moment of shared courage and vulnerability. But doubt skittered across the court, whispers wondering if their fight could challenge the concrete walls of reality. As the gavel rose, the air thickened with anticipation. Everything hinged on one moment. Would their call for justice echo loudly enough to force change, or would it be swallowed by the empty noise of indifference? Everyone held their breath, hearts thumping, longing for a spark that might just ignite a movement. The gavel struck down, shattering the anticipation in the room. The judge's voice rang out, firm but not unkind, cutting through the air like a knife. The court acknowledges the sentiments expressed, but the law must be upheld, he stated gravely. It felt like a heavy weight dropped in the center of Jeremy's chest, filling his small frame with a desperate mix of anger and fear. His mother squeezed his hand tighter, as if trying to share her strength. She leaned down and whispered, "Jeremy, remember what we talked about. We are not alone in this." Those words hung in the air like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Their neighbors, once silent spectators, now erupted into murmurs of discontent. Voices grew in volume, rising until they formed a wave of unity that surged through the courtroom. "This isn't just about them," one woman shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "It's about all of us." With that, the crowd rallied. Stories began to flow, other families, other struggles. Each tale echoed the same fears, the same hopes, and something profound began to change in the room. Jeremy felt their collective courage wrapping around him, lifting him up, making him feel larger than life. He caught a glimpse of a man in the back of the room, tears streaming down his face, and it struck Jeremy just how connecting shared experiences could be. "Please," Jeremy said, finding his voice rising above the chaos. "We just want to keep our home. We've worked hard, and we've fought for this place. It's more than a roof. It's our family." The murmuring stopped for a heartbeat, and in that pause, he saw understanding flicker in the eyes of the judge. But it was fleeting, like a candle's flame flickering in the wind. The judge cleared his throat to address the court once again, this time with a hint of compassion. There are processes in place for these matters. But he hesitated, a glimmer of something softer flickering in his stern demeanor. Jeremy's heart skipped a beat. What was about to happen? Would they have a chance? But the landlord, seeing the tide turning, interjected sharply. "This is a business transaction. They should have paid their rent." His voice was cold, a stark contrast to the warmth that had invaded the room. The tension rose again, thick and painful. Jeremy glanced at his mother, her eyes glistening with worry, and felt the familiar heat of determination start bubbling again. It wasn't just their home at stake. It was dignity, respect, and the very essence of who they were as a family. His voice trembled but remained strong as he took one step closer to the judge. "I believe in our community. I believe they care about us. We can work something out." Suddenly, a voice broke out from the crowd, a deep but trembling one. "I will help them. We all will." It was Mr. Thompson, their neighbor from 2 doors down, who had always shared his garden vegetables with Jeremy and his mom. A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd, people standing up, nodding, stepping forward. The courtroom buzzed with renewed energy, a fierce belief in the power of collective support igniting in everyone present. Jeremy felt his heart swell. Could this moment really be the turning point? As the judge weighed the unfolding chaos, time seemed to stretch, filled with possibility. Would they convince him to see beyond the cold text of law? Would the community's voice be enough to alter the course of their fate? Just as Jeremy prepared to take a deeper plunge into the fray of emotions and hope, he caught a glimpse of the courtroom doors swinging open. A new figure stepped inside, carrying an aura that demanded attention. Jeremy squinted to see who could it be. The uncertainty wrapped around him, igniting even bigger questions. The moment was charged, and as everyone turned to see this newcomer, a mix of fear and excitement danced in the air. This encounter could either strengthen their stand or change everything once again. What would this new arrival mean for Jeremy and his mother's fight? The figure that stepped into the courthouse was tall, dressed sharply in a dark suit that seemed to soak up the tension in the air. His hair was slicked back neatly, framing a face that bore lines of experience and determination. He scanned the room, taking in the rising voices and emotional commotion before his gaze landed on Jeremy and his mother. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice blending authority with warmth. Silence fell again this time. Everyone hung on his every word. "My name is David Reyes. I'm a lawyer in this district, and I'm here to help." Whispers erupted as the crowd exchanged incredulous looks. Could this be the break they desperately needed? Jeremy's heart raced, fueled by a mix of hope and confusion. Why was he really there? Did he know their story? "Your Honors," David continued, addressing the judge directly, "if I may, I believe there is more at play here than simple business interests. We have community members willing to assist this family. Isn't there a way we can facilitate a discussion rather than a simple ruling?" With eyes locked on the judge, David appeared composed, almost magnetic. The judge seemed caught off guard by this unexpected ally. "Typically, the court operates within strict guidelines," he said, straightening his posture. But before he could finish, whispers of encouragement flowed through the gathering. "We can help," another voice called, and one by one, people raised their hands, expressing their commitment to Jeremy and his mother. Taking in the collective strength of the community, Jeremy felt a fire igniting in his chest. This was not just a personal battle anymore. It felt as if they were fighting to reclaim a piece of their shared identity, each family standing together against the chaos that threatened to tear them apart. David seized the moment. "Your Honor, the law does not just exist in a vacuum. It must respect human dignity. If this community is willing to take action, should the courts not consider this too? This could serve as a precedent for how we treat families during tough times." The judge looked contemplative. He rubbed his chin and glanced at his notes, weighing his options. The tension in the room was almost unbearable. Jeremy squeezed his mother's hand, feeling her warmth blend with his growing confidence. "Could we think about a little time for mediation?" David proposed. "Pursue a proper dialogue instead of an immediate ruling?" The judge nodded slowly, an awareness gleaming in his eye. "I suppose that may be appropriate. The community's support cannot be ignored, especially in matters where the heart is involved." A wave of relief washed over Jeremy, almost knocking the wind out of him. It wasn't over yet, but they had made a crack in the wall that had overshadowed their home. As everyone shifted and murmured among themselves, curiosity flickered like sparks across the room. David stepped closer to Jeremy, lowering his voice while still addressing the audience. "Jeremy, why don't you tell me about your home, what it means to you and your family? Share your story." Jeremy's breath caught, a mixture of nerves and gratitude swelling inside. This was his moment. His words could echo beyond those four walls. He turned to the judge, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes upon him. The emotional charge in the air wrapped around him, urging him to speak. With a deep breath, he steadied himself. Before he could continue, the atmosphere shifted again as the doors swung open wider, and a familiar face came rushing in. It was his best friend, Aaron. But the look on Aaron's face was not one of excitement or support. It was filled with worry. "Jeremy, is everything okay?" he shouted over the growing silence. Suddenly, the emotion shifted again, and the question hung in the air: what new complication was about to unfold? Jeremy's heart sank as Aaron rushed forward, his eyes wide with concern. The air felt thick, and he could almost see the shadows of doubt creeping back in. The moment, so carefully crafted, teetered on the edge of uncertainty. "Aaron," Jeremy started, his voice barely a whisper, "What's wrong? Why are you here?" Aaron took a breath, his forehead glistening with sweat, the worry etched across his features. "I heard what was happening from a friend at school. I couldn't just sit there and do nothing." He paused, glancing around the packed courtroom. "I thought you might need me." For a heartbeat, that simple declaration grounded Jeremy. He was not alone. The whole community stood behind him, and now his best friend had come as well. "Jeremy," David said gently, stepping in, "why don't you introduce Aaron to everyone? Maybe he can share what your home means to him too." The idea caught Jeremy off guard. Could he really open up like that? But as he looked at Aaron, the encouragement in his friend's eyes bolstered his courage. They were in this together. Jeremy stammered, "This is Aaron. He lives down the street. We've been friends since kindergarten." He paused, recalling all the late nights they'd spent playing video games, and the countless times they had ridden their bikes under the warm sun. "Aaron knows what our home is like." Aaron stepped forward, catching the light pouring in through the courthouse windows. "Your Honor, ma'am, sir," he started, his voice quaking but steadying as he continued. "Jeremy's home it's not just a house. It's a place of laughter. We play and dream, and there's always food, and his mom makes the best pancakes." A flicker of a smile crossed Aaron's lips, brightening the heavy atmosphere. His mom is always looking out for us, making sure we're okay, sharing what little they have," he said, passion igniting his words. "When I heard they were in trouble, I just thought, no, we can't let that happen." Around them, the crowd began to nod in agreement. The energy in the room shifted yet again, hope reignited. David, watching the interaction carefully, leaned in with admiration. "Fight for the things you love," he encouraged the two boys. "Your words matter. It's voices like yours that can change hearts." The judge nodded slowly, absorbing the exchange. It's clear this family has support, and that community meant something. "Perhaps we can talk about this some more," but before he could finish, there was a commotion at the back of the courtroom. Suddenly, a woman pushed through the doors, panting and breathless. She wore a faded coat, and her face was lined with worry. "Excuse me," she interrupted. "I need to speak. I'm Mrs. Thompson, and I have information that could help Jeremy's family." It felt like time stood still. Who was she? What information could she possibly have? Jeremy's anxiety heightened as all eyes turned toward the newcomer. "Can we trust her?" he whispered to David, fear closing in around him. David turned to the judge, who now looked intrigued but cautious. "Your Honor, it seems there may be more layers to this case than we initially thought." Just when they'd begun to find their footing, here was another unexpected twist. Jeremy felt his heart pound in his chest as the weight of uncertainty crept back in. What could Mrs. Thompson reveal? And how would it change everything for his mom and him? As she stepped forward, the anticipation in the room brimmed with suspense. What if this was the turning point they had been waiting for? What truth could unravel next? Mrs. Thompson took a deep breath, steadying herself. The room quieted, the weight of every gaze pressing upon her. "I have known Jeremy's mother for years," she began, her voice trembling yet resolute. "She has been a single parent, working tirelessly to provide for Jeremy and herself. I felt I had to come forward." As she spoke, Jeremy's mind raced. He had seen Mrs. Thompson often, but never like this. Her words held a gravity he couldn't quite grasp. "I know what people say," she continued, her eyes flicking to the judge. "That they're not fit for this home, that it's too small, or they have no money. But that's not the whole truth. It isn't just about bricks and mortar. Their home is filled with love, hope, and resilience." The judge leaned forward, intrigued. "And how do you know this, ma'am?" "I've seen it," she replied firmly. "I've watched Jeremy grow. He has proven to be bright and caring even when the world around him seemed against him. His heart is big, just like his mother's. She has gone to great lengths to ensure his happiness and welfare." Jeremy's chest swelled with emotion. He glanced at Aaron, who nodded, his face a mix of pride and support. "Just last week," Mrs. Thompson continued, "I found Jeremy helping a neighbor with their groceries. He didn't just do it. He did it with a smile, without expecting anything in return. That's the kind of child his mother raises." A hushed murmur swept through the crowd. Jeremy felt warmth blanket him, but it was overshadowed by the churning emotions in his stomach. The judge's expression softened. "That's a remarkable testament," he said, glancing at the jury, who appeared visibly moved. Jeremy's heart raced. Could this really help his case? Could the truth of their lives speak louder than the accusations against them? David stepped forward again, sensing the moment. "Your Honor, I think it's essential we hear more about the community's support for Jeremy's family. These kids don't just lose a home. They lose their sense of belonging, of family." A sea of nods and murmurs followed, affirming David's words. Now filled with purpose, Aaron jumped in. "And it's not just about the house. Jeremy's mom gives rides to kids who need it, and she checks in on those who are sick. She has never turned anyone away. She deserves this home." Hope surged through Jeremy at his friend's passionate plea. Could they really turn this around? A renewed spark ignited and the audience members stood taller, motivated by the words of the boys and Mrs. Thompson. But just then, the doors creaked open again, and in strode another figure. It was Jeremy's mother. Her expression mirrored worry and determination. She scanned the room, locking eyes with Jeremy, her gaze filled with love. "What is happening?" she asked, breathless as she stepped further in. Suddenly, the courtroom seemed to wash with a different kind of energy. Everyone was alert, primed for whatever was next. Would she have the answers they all needed? As she approached, Jeremy felt the weight of their hopes resting on both their shoulders. Would the truth be enough to save their home? Time hung in the balance as all eyes turned to Mrs. Thompson, to Jeremy's mom, to the subtle yet powerful connections formed through words spoken in love. The walls felt closer, but so did the possibility of a positive outcome. What would his mother say, and how could it change everything in this moment? Would truth and community prevail against the odds that had weighed so heavily on them? "Mom." Jeremy's voice broke through the tension like a glass shattering. Her eyes found him, worry washing over her features as she hurried to his side. He could see she had been through so much in the past few weeks, the lines on her face deeper than he remembered. But despite all that, she stood tall and brave. "Jeremy," she said softly, "I heard you speaking, and I'm so proud of you." The courtroom held its breath as she turned to face Mrs. Thompson. "Thank you for what you said. I can't express how much it means to me." Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Your strength and love shine through everything. They can't take that away." The judge cleared his throat, drawing attention back to the legal proceedings. "Now that both sides have presented, I believe it is important to hear from you directly, Mrs. Park. Please share your perspective." Jeremy's heart raced. This was the moment. The moment when his mom had the chance to show everyone what he already knew, that they were more than their circumstances. Taking a deep breath, his mother stepped forward. Her voice was surprisingly steady. "I never wanted to be a single mother. I never wanted to struggle. But I learned to make our house a home, and I've worked hard to make sure Jeremy grows up feeling loved and cared for." Jeremy couldn't tear his eyes away from her. He felt strength radiating from her, filling the room. She continued, her words growing stronger. "We may not have all the money in the world, but we have each other. I still remember the nights we sat on the floor playing games because we couldn't afford going out. Those moments are the heartbeat of our family." A gasp sounded from the crowd, echoing in the quiet space as the realization swept over them. Families didn't count their worth in dollars and cents. They counted it through love and memories. The judge nodded, visibly moved. "It's the essence of families that matters in court as well as in life. Can you tell us about some of those moments, about community support?" "Absolutely," she replied, her confidence growing with every word. "My neighbors, they've become our family. They've cheered for Jeremy at his games, brought food when we were struggling, and sometimes just lent an ear when life got hard." As she spoke, Jeremy's mind flooded with memories of laughter and warmth, neighbors bringing over cookies, kids from the block coming over to play, even the little celebrations during birthdays that made them feel special despite the struggles. Aaron's voice rang out, full of conviction. "And Jeremy helps others too. He sticks up for kids who are bullied, and he shares his things without a second thought. That's what love looks like." Jeremy felt his chest swell. His friends were not just defending his family. They were also showing the world who he was. The room seemed to vibrate with a newfound energy as whispers of support moved through the crowd. "Your Honor," Mrs. Thompson interjected, her voice steady, "what we see here is a community united. They're not just fighting for a child. They're fighting for the very essence of what a home means." The judge looked from Mrs. Thompson to Jeremy's mother, then back at Jeremy. "You've both spoken with such passion. But this court must strive to make a decision based on fact rather than emotion. What evidence do you have to back all of this? Jeremy felt a spark of panic as the question hung in the air. Had they failed? But his mom was quick, unflinching. I can provide proof of my community work, of Jeremy's good deeds. It's all documented. Letters, testimonies, anything you need. Our home is filled with love, and that's what should matter. Time felt like it stopped. Her determination charged the air, and Jeremy could visibly see the cogs turning in the judge's mind. Would they finally see the truth behind their story? Just then, the doors swung open again, interrupting the moment. A group of neighbors filed in, faces animated and filled with determination. They were ready to stand beside Jeremy and his mom. As they filled the room, Jeremy felt a surge of hope. But what could this mean for their fight? Would unity and love be enough to sway the judge's final decision? The room fell silent as dozens of familiar faces stepped into the courtroom, each of them ready to add their voice to the growing chorus of support. Jeremy's heart thumped loudly in his chest. His neighbors, his friends, had answered the unspoken call for help. They filed in like a tide, their spirit invigorating the air. The judge looked taken aback. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked, raising an eyebrow, intrigued by the sudden influx of support. Jeremy's mom took a step forward. "Your Honor," she said, her voice clear, "these are our neighbors, our community. They've come to testify how deeply rooted Jeremy is in their lives. We wanted to show you that love and support can't be measured by money alone." One by one, familiar faces began to speak, their voices intertwining. Mrs. Johnson, who lived 2 doors down, spoke first. "I've watched Jeremy grow up. He is a special boy, always helps with my groceries and reads to my children. He brings joy to our neighborhood." Mr. Williams, who ran the local bookstore, chimed in. "He frequents my shop, always chatting about the latest books he has read. He's not just a customer, he is a bright light in our community." The judge leaned forward, intrigued. The flood of positive stories began to wash away the doubts that had filled the room. Each testimony added another layer of authenticity, showcasing the impact Jeremy had on those around him. As the testimonies flowed, Jeremy felt gratitude expand within him. These were the people who had cheered for him, lifted him up, and helped his mother through the darkest nights. It was as if the courtroom was transformed into a garden blooming with nurturing words, each compliment a petal unfurling in the sunlight. Then came little Ella, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Jeremy helped me when I was scared at school," she said, her voice trembling with sincerity. "He said it's okay to be different and be myself. He is my hero." Her tiny declaration made everyone smile, even the stern judge. Caught by the raw emotion in the room, Jeremy's eyes began to sting. He was reminded of those moments shared friendship growing despite the challenges they faced. He thought back to the night they had created a makeshift family dinner, with friends huddled around their tiny table, laughter filling the air. Could such simple moments really be enough? Jeremy's mom turned to him, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears. "That's what love looks like, Jeremy," she whispered. "Shared experiences that make life beautiful." The judge held up a hand, signaling for quiet. "This is all very compelling," he said slowly, weighing his words. "But that does not negate the legal repercussions of this situation. What I need now is the tangible evidence. Documentation, legal proof." A heavy weight settled over the room once more. Talks of paperwork and evidence surged back through Jeremy's mind like a storm rolling in. It felt as if the warmth they had created with love was now under an ominous cloud. Feeling a spark of determination, Jeremy quietly slipped his hand into his mom's and squeezed. She turned to him, surprise and pride dancing in her gaze. "You've got this," he whispered, even though he wondered if he really did. Then, He stood a little taller. "Mom, I have those papers at home. The letters you wrote to ask for help, and all those thank you notes from people who care. I'll get them." The judge's expression softened ever so slightly, intrigued by the 8-year-old's emerging resolve. "Very well, young man. If you can gather the necessary documents, we'll be ready to proceed." As Jeremy rushed out, the eyes of the courtroom followed him, the community's hope lingering like a warm embrace. Would he make it back in time with the proof they needed? Could love and determination truly prevail against the odds? The stakes had never felt so high. Jeremy sprinted down the corridor, the cool tiled floor beneath him buzzing like electric wires. His heart raced, each beat a reminder of the task ahead. He had to find the proof that could help change everything. In the whirlwind of emotions left behind in the courtroom, adrenaline coursed through him, urging him faster. He reached his front porch, breathless and eager. Just inside, he spotted the large cardboard box, the one filled to the brim with mementos and letters. It had all started as a simple home project, collecting gratitude as letters came pouring in from neighbors and friends who had offered their support over the years. Jeremy's mom hadn't realized how precious those notes would become. "Mom," he shouted, rushing through the door. "Where is that big box of letters?" She turned from the kitchen with a puzzled look. "It's in the living room, sweetheart." "Why?" "No time to explain," he called back, darting past her. He tugged at the box lid, heart pounding, as he quickly rifled through the neatly stacked letters. Each one felt like a warm hug from the past, bearing testimonials of kindness, encouragement, and love from those in his community. Come on, he murmured, desperate for the right ones. He could feel the weight of the courtroom hovering at the edge of his mind. There were letters from teachers praising his spirit, notes from families thanking him for his friendship, and pictures drawn by kids his age, bright and smiling. Every moment spent with them replayed in his mind. Grabbing handfuls of letters, Jeremy shuffled back toward the door. His mom's voice stopped him in his tracks. Wait! You can't just take that without talking. But they need to know how many people care about me. I can't let them down." His mom's expression softened. Concern for him blended with pride. "Okay, just be careful. You need to choose the strongest ones." He nodded, understanding her wisdom. Racing back to the living room, he quickly scanned the letters again. A light bulb turned on in his head. He reached for a familiar note written in red crayon, Ella's precious drawing accompanied by her kind words. Just the sort of evidence they needed. A few others caught his eye. These perfectly illustrated their community's spirit. This was more than just paper, it was hope and love in physical form. With newfound determination, he grabbed the chosen letters, clutched them tightly against his chest, and dashed back out the door. Breathless, he entered the courtroom again, feeling a wave of eyes turn toward him, anticipation thick in the air. The judge raised an eyebrow, and Jeremy felt the weight of expectation settle on his small shoulders. "Your Honor, I got them. I got the letters," he exclaimed, standing tall even with the stack of paper in his hands. The silence was palpable, a collective breath held, waiting for what would unfold next. His mom approached him slowly, a smile breaking through her anxiety as she reached out for the papers, validating his efforts. As the judge leaned forward in curiosity, Jeremy's heart swelled with hope. "Let us hear what they have to say," he said, glancing at the letters with newfound interest. Would these simple notes, filled with love and kindness, bend the scales of justice in Jeremy's favor? Could they truly show that community love rivals any legal argument? All he could do was hope. As he watched his mom's fingers lightly touch the edges of the first letter, a sense of calm washed over him. But just as she opened the first letter, a sudden commotion erupted from the back of the courtroom. Jeremy's heart sank. What now? The noise escalated, sending a ripple of tension through the courtroom. Every head turned, curious, anxious. Jeremy's heart raced faster now, thudding loudly in his chest. He squinted, trying to make sense of what was happening at the back. A young girl, probably about his age, stood there looking lost. She twisted the hem of her shirt, tears glimmering in her eyes. It seemed she had been trying to gather her courage to speak, but something about the atmosphere had swallowed her bravery. "Excuse me," she shouted, voice cracking, but it rang like a bell in the hushed room. "I'm Alice." The room collectively shifted its focus from Jeremy and his letters to this unexpected newcomer. "Your Honor," she began, shifting her gaze between the judge and Jeremy. "I wanted to say something. It's really important." The judge nodded, his brow furrowing in curiosity. "Go ahead, young lady." As Alice stepped closer, her words rushed out in a tumble. "Jeremy helped me when I was sad. I was new to school, and didn't he have any friends, and he made me a card. It had a picture of a dragon on it, and it said I was brave. He made me feel like I belonged. That's what he does. He makes people feel good." Jeremy's heart warmed. He couldn't believe this was happening. Amidst his own floating worries, here was his friend, sharing her words about him. "Thank you, Alice," Jeremy whispered, feeling a surge of gratitude. Alice wiped her tears with the sleeve of her shirt, her courage shining bright. "I know it's hard for him right now, but his kindness has touched a lot of lives. I don't think anyone should ever feel alone because he has been there for all of us." With each word, Jeremy felt the tension in the air lift slightly. He could see the faces of the court, a mixture of surprise and admiration. Then, to his shock, others began to stand. One by one, people from the audience were rising to share their stories. A teacher spoke about how Jeremy's spirit had reignited the hope in troubled students. A neighbor recounted a time Jeremy mowed her lawn when she was sick. The stories came tumbling forth, each more touching than the last, reminding Jeremy just how big a difference he made in their lives. The courtroom transformed. What had begun as a daunting space full of fear now resonated with warmth and unity. Jeremy watched each face light up as they recalled moments he had thought were inconsequential. It struck him that in every small act of kindness he had shown, something magnificent had been growing, a community woven together by understanding and love. His mom stood beside him, a proud smile illuminating her face, tears bright in her eyes. This was more than he had ever hoped for, but just as this unexpected wave of support swept over them, a voice erupted from the back of the courtroom, cutting through the emotion. "This is ridiculous. They're just kid stories." Gregory, the opposing lawyer, pushed through the crowd. He stood there, sneering. "These letters are meaningless. They can't possibly have any weight against proper evidence." In that moment of cold interruption, doubt began to creep back into Jeremy's heart. Would this burst of warmth and community be enough? With uncertainty creeping in, Jeremy clenched the stack of letters tighter. He had to believe. Could the love of friends and neighbors truly stand strong against the cynicism of the world? The risk they had taken today was immense. Would it hold? And as the judge called for order, Jeremy's thoughts raced. What would be the final word of the court? Was it possible that compassion could triumph over cold facts? As the judge raised his gavel, the room fell into a tight silence. Jeremy felt the weight of the letters in his hands, the warmth of community surrounding him, but the echo of Gregory's words hung in the air like a dark cloud. The judge's brows furrowed as he surveyed the crowd, recognizing the emotional tide rushing through the room. This court must weigh the facts alongside the profound sentiments expressed today. While the law does prioritize hard evidence, the spirit of the community also cannot be overlooked. He paused, glancing over the sea of hopeful faces. However, it is imperative we have substantial documentation to guide our final decision. Jeremy felt his heart race. He wanted to shout that love was enough, that their stories should matter more than any piece of paper. But instead, he took a deep breath, looking up at his mom, who nodded intently, her expression steady. "Your Honor," she began, stepping forward with confidence, "let us bring forth the proof. The love we share isn't just sentiment, it's our reality. It's documented in our actions, and in these letters." She gestured to Jeremy to come closer, and he stepped beside her, clutching the stack firmly. They shared a glance that spoke volumes. In that moment, Jeremy understood the transcendence of their struggles. With courage bubbling up from within, he stepped forward and addressed the court. "Sir, if the law is truly about people, then these letters show who we truly are. The heart of our family is not defined by our finances, but by our unity, laughter, and support." The judge's eyes softened at the conviction in Jeremy's voice. "Very well, let us examine the letters, shall we?" He beckoned Jeremy's mom to provide them. As they started reading through the heartfelt notes, the room swelled with energy. One by one, the judge stopped at each poignant word, his expression shifting from neutrality to empathy. He stopped to reflect on every anecdote, making it clear that the emotional gravitas was being duly considered alongside the legalities. With each letter, Jeremy felt the doubts of earlier fade away, replaced by a sense of pride. Their story was powerful, woven together with threads of kindness and support. He exchanged glances with his neighbors, their strength fueling him, igniting a determination that pulsed through his veins. Then, as the stacks of testimony shrank, the judge looked up, capturing the energy of the room. "I want to commend you all not just for tonight, but for the community you built," he said, his voice rich with sincerity. "It takes great love and dedication to foster an environment where everyone feels welcome and valued." A ripple of hope unfurled among the crowd, a collective breath of relief and recognition. But Gregory was not done. "Your Honor, while this is touching, it is ultimately irrelevant to the case at hand," he argued, desperation creeping into his voice. "The law is clear. These kids are not the ones who will be paying the mortgage." The judge silenced him with a pointed look. "On the contrary, Mr. Gregory, love can sometimes outweigh cold hard facts. Evidence comes in many forms, and the support of a community is invaluable." Around him, the crowd murmured in agreement, voices building into a chorus of unity. "We stand with Jeremy," someone shouted. "He is our neighbor. A good kid." With every word of solidarity, Jeremy felt a wall of strength rise around him, a fortress built from the love of everyone present. His mom placed a hand on his shoulder, pride radiating off her. "Your Honor," she addressed the judge again, "I know we've struggled, and we still have challenges ahead, but we also have our community, willing to help us grow and thrive. We don't need to win by breaking a system. We need to show that we belong to something greater." Jeremy felt the warmth of tears prick at his eyes, not from sadness, but from an overwhelming surge of hope. Maybe they could win a future filled with the kind of love and support that could withstand any storm. After a moment that felt eternal, the judge leaned back, his expression thoughtful. The anticipation in the room reached a boiling point. Would his ruling reflect the values spoken that night? Based on the compelling testimony, and acknowledging the profound community spirit exhibited here today, he began, "I find that while legal matters must take precedence, the connection of families to their homes is paramount. Thus, I am postponing the eviction for a period of mediation, where both parties can come together to find a resolution that respects the bonds formed here." Cheers erupted in the courtroom, drowning out the noise of disbelief. Jeremy's heart soared as his mother clutched him, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. They had done it. The support of their community and their unwavering determination had shifted something monumental. As the crowd celebrated, Jeremy caught a glance from Aaron, who beamed back at him with pride. Together, they had sparked something beautiful, a chain of connection powerful enough to change the course of their lives. While challenges loomed in the future, tonight had proven that they weren't just fighting for a house. They were fighting for a home built on love, supported by a community that mattered. The journey would continue, but together, they would navigate whatever came ahead. And as the gavel struck once more, Jeremy whispered to his mom, "We did it, didn't we?" Her smile radiated warmth and hope. "Yes, sweetheart. Together, we can do anything." Now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that uplift and inspire. Leave a like now to help spread this positive message and feed the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts on this incredible ending and the impact this story had on you. And please, don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us rally our community of support.